Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, Wrestling with Books. My name is Nina and I am here today with a wrap-up of all of the books that I read in September. I know it's October, it's crazy, but we're getting through, right? We're getting through. So I'm gonna start by talking about the books that I most recently finished and then going on and continuing on to the books that I read at the beginning of September. So just hang in there. We're gonna do this. So the book that I completed most recently was Violet Made of Thorn by Gina Chen. Let me just check. It's Violet Made of Thorn, so that is plural. And I'd seen the cover of this book, but what made me want to read it was listening to the author on the Happy Writer podcast by Marissa Meyer. So Marissa Meyer, who wrote Cinder and my favorite book series, The Renegades, has a podcast, and I really like to listen to authors talk about writing. So this podcast is fantastic for me. And as Gina Chen spoke about the character of Violet being a seer, and she is a seer for the royal family, I loved that idea. So in this book, Violet is, as I said, the seer for the royal family, and there is a prophecy about the prince that the society really is feeling the pressure to kind of have complete, you know? So Violet gets pressure from the king to kind of maybe fictionalize some of her own prophecies for the prince, but at the same time, Violet is experiencing some visions of her own that affect the prince's well-being. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, different fairy tale vibes. You know, there are elements of Cinderella, but at times I would kind of feel some other like Beauty and the Beast-ish elements. So I feel like there's a few different fairy tales that are kind of sprinkled throughout without it being an overt retelling. If you like fantasy young adult novels, I would recommend this read. For me personally, it was a little slow, but I did really enjoy Violet because Violet is not your typical heroine. She's multifaceted like we are. She has to really kind of think between doing the right thing and doing the right thing for her. And I found that to be a very human and honest struggle. Hi, Buster. So I enjoyed that aspect of this book. Next up, we have Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorn. And I do have a standalone book review for this, so I won't get too into it, but it does tell the story of Victor Frankenstein's sister who ends up bringing to life her perfect match. This is a great holiday Halloween read. If you like romance novels and maybe not horror, then this is a fun way to have Halloween because there's nothing scary about it. It is just Halloween because it deals with Frankenstein. I thought this was really fun, and the author kept me on my toes as to how she was going to wrap this all up nicely, and she did. So bravo to this title. Next up, I read this book on my phone because I received it from NetGalley, and that was the way they allowed you to download it. It was just the EPUB version, so to speak, and it is called She and Her Cat by Makoto Shinkai and Naruki Nagakawa. And if you could see a little, I'll just put the cover here. It is adorable, just adorable. It tells about stories of people that interweave, and they're maybe at like sad points in their life, and then they end up adopting a cat, and everyone's lives end up being better. So that's my kind of story. I'm really gonna leave it at that. There's not too much more to say about it other than bad things don't happen to the cats, because that's what I kept worried about. I can handle a depressed human, I can't handle a depressed cat, you know, and everybody gets out of their depression because they have cats now. But it's so cute. I'm not doing it justice, but it tells where the person's at and then the cat's perspective. Like right now, Buster would be saying, she's sitting across from that camera again. I wonder who it is she talks to and she's not talking to me. And it's just adorable. So trust me, if you want like a quick read, this one is perfect and I think this would be a great Christmas gift for cat lovers in your life because it's just precious. Next up, we have A Spoonful of Murder by J.M. Hall. This was another NetGalley read, and this is a cozy mystery that is much more thought out than your typical cozy mystery. So this one was a bit more thought-provoking than, let's say, the Bake Shop mysteries, and that's not an insult to the Bake Shop mysteries. It's just if you're looking for something that's a step more, you know, to think a little more rather than just the escapism of the coziness, then this one would be for you. It tells the story of 3 friends who are trying to investigate the suspicious passing of a former co-worker. I did a standalone book review for this title, so I'm gonna leave it at that for this video. I read City of Glass, part of the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. I did not read these books as they came out, so I do feel that I miss out on the nostalgia vibe for it because these books really are made for, of course, their target audience of teenagers. And so as much as I liked them as an adult, I think I would have really liked them as a teen when it was, you know, intended to be read. But so many of my peers love these books that I really wanted to read them and check it out for myself. I felt like in this book everything wrapped up so nicely, but then there's more. So then it's like, what? You know, I thought this was it. So this tells the story of, is it Lacey? Lacey? I forget her name now, but she finds out that she is part of kind of like this underworld where warlocks and shadow hunters and vampires all exist. Clary is her name. Leading up to this book, there were a lot of things that kind of just went awry in Clary's life as she was introduced to this world of shadow hunters, and they're kind of the people who keep things at bay between the warlocks and the werewolves and the vampires and all these different communities, so to speak. And I really liked it. I thought it was going to end here. That was how much I liked how everything came to be. There was a new character in this book that I really loved, and I was like, oh yes, he's definitely got to be part of all these sub-series. And then it was like, no. That's it for him, you know? So that made me kind of laugh at myself. But I'm enjoying this series, and I probably will continue it, like, you know, sprinkle it here or there throughout, you know, not kind of finish them all in a row, but every now and then when I'm up for it, we'll go on to the next one. Book I read a physical copy of, and it was Don't Stop the Carnival by Herman Wouk. And I read this because Jimmy Buffett did kind of like a play. He did an album. I mean, it was a play. It wasn't like a Broadway play or anything. I think it just played somewhere in Florida, but he did do a studio album recording of it, and it is based on this book. And I love this album. It's not a Jimmy Buffett album that people frequently talk about or listen to, but I love it, and it made me want to read the book. So I did, and it tells the story of Norman Paperman, who works in public relations on Broadway. And this is kind of in the mid 1950s, 1960s type of era, and he ends up kind of going through a midlife crisis, leaves New York for a Caribbean island where he buys a resort and runs it. And this goes into like everything that can go wrong, will go wrong. It's really funny, and it was enjoyable to kind of see the things happening in the book and then hear the songs that Jimmy Buffett made for it. So I thought this was a lot of fun for that reason. And then right at September 1st, I had finished reading The Age of Cage by Keith Phipps, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yes, Keith Phipps. This was so much fun. Nicolas Cage is someone you know even if you don't, right? Like, I had actually never seen a Nicolas Cage movie. I know, Moonstruck, Raising Arizona, National Treasure, haven't seen them, okay? But I wanted to read this book anyway because I just really love reading biographies and whatnot. And it was hilarious. Like, Nicolas Cage is really good at the unintentional humor, but it was great to kind of just shadow a successful person's career, his movie choices, his film choices, why he chooses them, and so forth. He does not provide an interview for this book, but there are interviews that he's given that are cited and whatnot, and you kind of go through his entire filmography, which was really fun. And so I started watching some alongside it, which has been exciting. So far, Raising Arizona was my favorite, but I do have a bit more to go. I'm still in the early era of Cage. But The Age of Cage, if you are a film fan, then I think this is a great book to read because it just gives you a lot of different behind the scene sort of feels. So those are all the books that I read in September. Already my October month is going pretty good, pretty good. I say that now, but no, I think what happens is I read a lot of books at the same time because I have a short attention span. So that means I finish a lot of books at the same time. So I'm getting ready to finish a few, and that's exciting. So if you're new here, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, give me a book emoji or something to let me know that you made it because you are the real VIPs. I will be back with some more videos on this channel, or you can check out my primary channel, Wrestling with Disney, where I have a lot of Disney content, sometimes wrestling, sometimes Buster and I do a cat lady box unboxing each month. So it's always a lot of fun over there. Thanks for being here, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.